This week on Driver's Seat, Ted and Tony pick their best in class. Best family sedan or wagon. Best economy car. Best utility vehicle. Best performance car. Best upmarket car. And best car we'd actually buy. All coming up as we put you in the driver's seat. Brought to you in part by Shell Canada, makers of the truly different gasoline, Formula Shell. Driver's Seat with automotive journalists Ted Laternus and Tony Whitney.
Well, this week on Driver's Seat, we get to choose our favorites in 6 different categories of vehicles. And when we list the finalists in each category, we'd like you to know that there's always more cars than we have time for. So what we've done is pick the top 6 in each class and then choose our personal favorites from that list. So let's start off with the best family sedan or wagon. And in alphabetical order, the choices are Honda Accord, Hyundai Sonata V6, Nissan Stanza, Plymouth Acclaim Dodge Spirit, Subaru Legacy Wagon, and the Volvo 740 Wagon. What's your pick here, Tony?
Well, choosing a family sedan or wagon these days is no easy task, and even getting down to a short list meant throwing out some very hot contenders. Before picking the Volvo 740 Wagon, I was very tempted to name the Sonata as my choice, because it offers so much room for a very keen price. The Stanza is also a very fine small car, and has all kinds of great features, again for a very competitive price. The Legacy is simply the best thing Subaru's done for years, and it's right up with the class leaders. But all things considered, I have to pick the Volvo, and I really like the 16-valve twin-cam engine our test vehicle had. Wagons may have gone out of fashion a bit with so much emphasis on small vans, but they still offer the easiest way to get instant cargo space without removing and storing seats. Add to this Volvo's superb comfort, especially its seats, and fine build quality, and you have a superb all-rounder. There's also the safety angle where family travel is concerned, and what vehicle is safer than a Volvo? This is not the cheapest way to haul a family and its luggage around, but it's certainly one of the best. So what was your pick, Ted?
Well, Tony, this was a toughie, both because the market segment is so crowded and because this year's crop of family sedans is so good. But after looking at the 20 or so we drove this year, I had to narrow it down between the Legacy and the Sonata. I picked the Sonata, just as I did last year, but only because of the V6 engine. The Legacy is actually as good a car. In fact, in some ways, it's better. But that nice 3-liter V6 makes all the difference. Hyundai have done a first-class job with this engine, and it makes a good car even better. And the rest of the Sonata ain't too shabby either. It has a nice roomy interior, excellent ingress and egress, much improved fit and finish, and most of all, is easy to get along with. It also has a big trunk, a full-size spare tire, and simple, uncluttered lines. I think Hyundai could refine the Sonata a bit more, mainly in the area of power door locks and engine bay layout, but it remains unpretentious, comfortable family transportation. At well under $19,000, it's simply the best V6 powered sedan in Canada. And it's also saying something for Subaru that we both put the Legacy very high on this list. Tony?
Yeah, the Legacy's a great car. Okay, next up is the economy class, and here are the nominees in alphabetical order. First, we have the Hyundai Excel, then the Ford Festiva, Subaru Justy, Suzuki Swift Sedan, the VW Fox, and the VW Golf Diesel. What was your pick, Ted?
I'm sure you'll agree here, Tony, that one of the things you can't help but notice about today's breed of econoboxes is how good they're getting. You got cars that cost $10,000 or less, all the attributes of vehicles 1 or 2 sizes larger. The Suzuki Swift Sedan is a good case in point. Nice roomy interior, above average performance, and a surprisingly large trunk that gives you more cargo space than anything else in this class. I appreciate the virtues of hatchback economy cars that give me a trunk every time. Backseat leg and headroom is superior to any other econobox we tested this year. The Swift also has one of the liveliest, best coordinated drivetrains in the business and will deliver exceptionally good mileage. Torque steer, always a problem in this class, is also well under control. And the GLX model even has power door locks. I'd like the Swift sedan a bit more if the window winder were easier to get at and highway noise is a little less pronounced. But at well under $10,000, this car is a bargain. You think so, Tony?
Well, you could be right, Ted, but having tried just about every economy car on the Canadian market and lots you can't buy here, I toss out all the finalists in favour of the VW Fox. The Fox has by far the best engine of the bunch, and it's easily the most powerful too. It's beautifully built, although not in Germany, and feels much more expensive inside than any close competitor. The styling is a bit ho-hum, but it works well enough, and there's lots of room for passengers and luggage. It handles far better than it's got any right to, and family people giving up a sports car for one of these will not be making too many sacrifices. I have a relative who owns a Fox, and I've watched its progress carefully over the last couple of years. The car has always been completely reliable and always a pleasure to drive, according to the owner. There's been just one problem, but how angry can you get about a high-mount rear stoplight that came unglued? Well, there's nothing wrong with the other finalists, Ted, but I just can't help thinking that dollar for dollar this is the best.
I do like the Fox. I said it before. I do like it. I think the Suzuki is better assembled. I think the fit and finish quality is better on the Suzuki because the Fox is made in Brazil. It's just not quite up to the same standard, but I do like it.
Well, I think the Suzuki is a great little car, and I think the fit and finish is good, but not better, in my view, than the Fox. And I like the Fox's engine. It would always swing it for you, an 1800cc engine. Most of those econo buses have pretty wimpy little engines.
Yeah, well, this was a pretty close call for both of us, I think. We'll have to agree to disagree here.
Right.
And we'll be right back with another look at this year's best in just a moment.
We're back with our best of the year, and the next category is Best Utility Vehicle, and the nominees are the GMC Jimmy, the Mazda MPV four-wheel drive, the Nissan Access, the Nissan Pathfinder, the Pontiac Transport, and the Toyota 4Runner. Do you have a winner here, Ted?
Yeah, well, with just about every manufacturer in the business switching to four-wheel drive these days, it's getting tougher all the time to pick a winner here. I think I struggle here more than in any other class, with the likes of the 4Runner and the Pathfinder emerging as front-runners. Imagine my surprise then after driving the GMC S-15 Jimmy. This is my favorite all-round utility vehicle. What I like about it is its driver friendliness. I've had my share of problems with General Motors products over the years, but the Jimmy has always been a solid and easy to get along with wagon. It has one of the most powerful V6s in its class, better than average handling, and is surprisingly roomy inside. It also has a kind of a retro feel about it. This design hasn't really changed in 10 years, which is okay with me. I like the column-mounted shifter, for example, and the S-15 reminds me in many ways of some of the GM products I grew up with, back when they made good cars. We tested the two-wheel drive Jimmy this year, but it's also available in the four-wheel drive, and they're basically the same. Where do you stand here, Tony?
Well, there seems to be so much to choose from in this bracket these days, and the world seems to have gone niche market crazy. Selecting the Pontiac Transport as my choice was tricky. This choice often comes down to price and usage needs, especially among the vans. Now, I love downsized vans, if anybody still calls them that, and feel that all current models have something to commend them. But for sheer boldness of design and execution, I have to pick the Transport. If for no other reason than its innovative plastic body panels, it deserves wider praise. For me, the peace of mind of owning dent-free transportation is almost beyond price, and I hope that all vehicles are going to be built like this one day. The Transport marks a new high for interior treatment on a GM vehicle, in my view, and the room inside is amazing. Coupled with an excellent drivetrain and the most radical styling in the industry, this van really looks as though it belongs in the 1990s. Some people have criticized its styling as a little too space age, but I feel that GM could hardly offer up another bread box van and try to convince buyers that it was something out of the ordinary. One look at this baby and you just know that it is. How about that we both pick GM products?
Well, I think you like the Transport a lot more than I do, Tony. I feel that GM rushed into production with this car. It's interesting that the Transport is probably the most futuristic model they make, and the Jimmy is probably the most old-fashioned. So I think I'd pick old-fashioned.
Well, that's true, but I think that this is pretty well right first time. With modern manufacturing techniques, it's fairly easy to get these things right. They don't have to go through a period of bedding in and working out the details in customers' hands, and I think the vehicle is pretty well right.
Well, at least we both like GM. Next up is the best performance car. This should be interesting, and this is what we've chosen. The Ford Mustang GT, the Eagle Talon TSI all-wheel drive, the Nissan 300ZX Turbo, the SAAB 900 SPG, the Suzuki Swift GT, the Volkswagen Corrado. Tony, you own a Mustang. Which one did you choose here?
Well, this was a toughie for me, Ted, because money is a factor. Now, money-wise, the Swift is easily the best buy. At the other end of the scale is the 300ZX, but somewhere in between is the world's best performance value. That's why I own one, Ford's Mustang GT. With its potent 5-litre V8 and excellent handling and steering, this is one of those cars Europeans cannot believe it's possible to buy at our prices. It's well screwed together too, and the whole car seems solid and dependable. Despite its long-lived body styling, it still looks great to my eyes, and I just love all those spoilers and air dams. Mustangs have always been wonderful cars, well, almost always, but this one has to be judged the best of them all. If you look to Europe or Japan for a car with 225 horsepower and this level of handling, be prepared to shell out upwards of $50,000. Mustang fans might not project the upper crust image of European supercar owners, but they can out-accelerate them all the way to the bank with their GTs. And if you don't want the spoilers, you can always buy an LX, which is just as quick.
Well, money is a factor here. That's why I chose the Suzuki Swift GT. Hands down, dollar for dollar, best on the market. For about $13,000, you get a car that gives you as much fun as you can have with your clothes on. The Swift GT is the best thing to come along in years, in my opinion, and will outrun anything else in its price range. The 1.3-litre twin-cam powering it is a work of art. It'll take you from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in about 8 seconds, and you can rev the daylights out of it time after time. It seems to thrive on abuse. What's more, it delivers excellent fuel economy. The GT will also hustle through tight turns as fast as anything costing twice as much. In fact, a stock GT right off the showroom floor was driven by Vancouver driver Bill Yearwood in a 6-hour endurance race this year, and he blew the doors off everything on the track. The Swift GT also comes with 4-wheel disc brakes and special anti-dive suspension geometry. That alone puts it in a class all by itself, Tony.
Well, it's a nice car, and I admit that. You know, the Mustang has its faults. It's undrivable in the snow, for one thing. The Swift is a good economical car. If I had any sense, I'd buy the Swift. If I was a bit rash, I'd buy the Mustang.
The thing about the Swift that I like is that it's much more accessible to more people. The Mustang is a wonderful car. I'm a big fan of it, but this is a hairy car to drive at speed. It's very, very powerful.
Well, it's fun. It doesn't
a lot
have
of
to be
people will
fast.
be intimidated by that, I think.
Oh, I think so. But as far as the Swift goes, I think it's one of those cars that feels faster than it is, which is fine.
It reminds me of an old British sports car because it feels faster than it is, right?
For sure. Okay, we're going to take a break now. We'll come back and we'll look at the best upmarket car. Welcome back. And now we're going to throw monetary caution to the wind and pick the best upmarket car. And the finalists are the Audi V8, the BMW 535i, the Chevrolet Corvette ZR1, the Jaguar XJ6, the Mercedes 500 SL, and the Porsche Carrera 4. And what's yours, Ted?
Decisions, decisions, decisions. Love the Corvette ZR1, love the BMW M5. Crazy about the Jag, but I think I'm going to have to go with the Porsche Carrera 4. Despite the fact that this is a 25-year-old body style with an interior that looks as though it was designed by Jackson Pollock, the Carrera 4 is a gas. The 231 horsepower flat six bristles with power, and the car can eat up tight turns fast enough to take your breath away. It also has 4-wheel drive and anti-locking brakes, which makes it the most versatile luxury sports car on the road. But more than anything else, the 911 Carrera 4 is a piece of history. This is the same car that put Porsche on the map, and it remains the quintessential Porsche in my opinion. You can keep the 928 S4, which is probably faster. I like my Porsches to have their engines in the back. Now, if the boys at Zuffenhausen can only get a little less cocky and upgrade their quality control, I'll be happy. My Carrera 4 was practically falling apart at the seams. For almost 120 grand, I don't want to hear about worn upholstery, leaking front differentials, and sunroofs that don't work. I just want to drive the damn thing as fast and as often as I can. This is a wonderful car, Tony, all things considered. How about you? What would you pick?
Well, what I'd like to do here, Ted, is to pick one at random. We're in pretty esoteric territory here, and any of these would be just a delight. Now, I lean heavily towards the 500 SL, but it only has 2 seats, and I'm going to assume that at least 2 people will want to share my supercar with me. But when all the chips are down, I have to go with a Jaguar XJ6, because there's simply no car with the style and elegance of a Jaguar. To me, getting into a Jag is like putting on one of those suits they hand-tailor on London's Savile Row. It just feels right, and imparts an immediate sense of well-being and opulence. It goes well, too, at long last, and not many cars will outpace the 1990 Jaguars. Inside, it's a delight, with acres of Connolly hide and all that beautiful burled walnut trim. Thankfully, Jaguar has given up on the Narita Airport landing light instruments, and you now get a fine array in the true British sports car tradition. There may be more modern luxury cars, and some of them are faster, but this matters little to a Jaguar connoisseur. When it comes to being whisked smoothly and effortlessly from one place to another, the Jaguar XJ6 has them all beaten. It also represents very good value for money, in a category in which $100,000 cars are becoming almost commonplace. And at less than $68,000, it's quite a buy.
I couldn't agree more. This is a wonderful car, but the Porsche is awesome. And if, you know, this is like being a kid in a candy shop. I want awesome, this is the car I'd pick. I think the car is absolutely amazing, mechanical problems notwithstanding.
Well, I like the Porsche too. It's a wonderful car and so forth. But I think that, as I say, I think that if I was choosing a two-seater with a Mercedes without any shadow of a doubt, the 500 SL, the Jaguar to me has got something that no other car has, not even the Mercedes.
I think this is apples and oranges here because the Jaguar is a completely different car from the Carrera.
Well, that's true enough. Okay. The next category is cars that we'd actually picked to buy ourselves, and we've got two separate lists for this one, and here's Ted with the first one.
Well, this one drove me nuts. Somebody says, what's your favorite car? And you go crazy trying to decide. Well, anyway, here are my choices. Audi's 90 Quattro four-wheel drive, the BMW 318 IS, the Honda Civic LX, Saab's 900 SPG, and the Subaru Legacy Wagon. These are all fine automobiles, but my number one choice here is the Saab 900 SPG. Why? In a word, it has personality. As soon as you get into the car, you know that this is something off the beaten track. The interior and dash layout is unlike any other car made, and the front bucket seats are the best in the business, bar none. The SPG also has the most distinctive body style you'll find anywhere. I love the way it looks and handles. This is in the top 10 of performance hatchbacks that will blow the doors off any other front drive car on the road. It's also extremely safe and is absolutely huge inside and goes like a bat out of hell. I really wish Saab would deep six the reverse lock on the ignition, but I guess I could live with it. This is a limited production model, by the way, and it's bound to go up in value, so it's as good an investment as it is fun to drive. How about you, Tony?
Well, this is an interesting category, and I could find an excuse to own any of these, and they are the ACURA INTEGRA, the BMW 318 IS, the Eagle Talon, the Mazda Miata, and the Nissan 240SX. Now, each one of these has its own character, but I'm going to pick the Mazda Miata, or MX-5 as nobody calls it. The Miata is the first example of Japanese retro styling to reach North America, and it seems to appeal to just about everybody. Young drivers seem to think it's the greatest thing that ever hit the showrooms, and older motorists see it as the ultimate nostalgia trip. It's no ball of fire, but it goes well enough. It makes all the right 50s sports car noises, it's got a great cockpit and excellent instrumentation, and it looks great. And last of all, it looks great. Mazda looked carefully at the old Lotus Elan, Ginetta, Triumph TRs, Spitfires, and other almost forgotten sportsters, and came up with something nobody's ever dreamed up before. A 60s British sports car that works. People commenting on the Miata have a habit of pointing out that this is the car MG or Triumph should be building now. Well, I'm glad these British manufacturers aren't building this now because they'd find some way of messing it up, I have to say.
I love this car every bit as much as you do, but this category is a personal choice. I have a Morgan, so the last thing in the world I need is another two-seater, but if I didn't, I would have to agree 100%. To me, the SPG represents sportiness, but it's also a very practical car.
Yeah, well, Morgans are great, but this is a Morgan that works properly and you can rely on it.
My Morgan works like a charm.
Now, this is the greatest thing that's come along for years. I keep trying to find an excuse for owning one. You know, I haven't got really the practicality is important to me, but I keep finding it. And when I find myself looking at cars and trying to find out a way of buying one, that's when I think the car is great.
I'm glad to see also that the Miata has sort of gone past the inflationary spiral that it was in. Now you can buy them for the price they were originally intended to be at, like about $18,000, $19,000.
Oh yeah, they're selling. I think now you can buy them, you know, for the price that they're listed at, which is great. And there were some dealers, mainly in the US, some dealers who took advantage of the situation and loaded them up with a lot of rubbish that people didn't want. And quite frankly, if I was buying this, I'd buy the basic car and say, I don't want anything. I don't want to put a radio in it.
Absolutely. I'm seeing them advertised now for $18,500, but not that long ago they were right up to like $24,000, $25,000. You know,
I heard 28. Some
$28,000
out there paid $28,000 for an $18,000.
Well, for that kind of money, I would take the 900 S.
Worst. I had to draw on very personal feelings about styling. Not having had a chance to drive Chrysler's awful 70s revival Imperial, the Cougar had to get my vote. Truth is, this is an excellent car in just about every respect but styling. how the Mercury styling people could take a beautiful design like the Thunderbird and despoil it with that silly back window treatment and dreadful nose job, I'll just never know. I'm still convinced that Ford has an uglification department for Cougars because they've been like this since the dawn of automotive time. Thank heavens you can still buy a T-Bird at roughly the same price. Now if you're a Cougar owner, I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. Now here's Ted with his choice.
Without a doubt, the most obnoxious, irritating, and idiotic car I drove this season was the Skoda 135 GLI. No cheap shots, but this car is a piece of junk. It's uncomfortable, loud, crude, gutless, ugly, unpredictable, and is hopelessly outclassed by everything else in this price range, which, incidentally, is quite high. It'll run you about $8 grand to get a Skoda these days, and that's 8 times too much, in my opinion. The car lacks fit and finish, refinement, and engineering that all of its competitors have. This is a car that hasn't changed significantly in 25 years. Why anyone would want to buy a car this out of touch with reality is beyond me. And what's more, now that Czechoslovakia has overthrown communism, all the political prisoners that were forcibly put to work on the Skoda assembly line have gone home. I guess that means that nobody's going to build these cars anymore. What a pity.
So to recap our selections for Best Family Sedan, Ted chose the Hyundai Sonata and I chose the Volvo 740 Wagon. In the category of Best Economy Car, Ted picked the Suzuki Swift Sedan and I took the VW Fox. For Best Utility Vehicle, Ted went for the GMC Jimmy and I chose the Pontiac Transport. For Best Performance Car, Ted selected the Suzuki Swift GT and I chose the Ford Mustang GT. For Best Upmarket Car, Ted went for the Porsche Carrera 4 and I took the Jaguar XJ6. For the Best Car I Would Buy category, Ted took the SAAB 900 SPG and I chose the Mazda MIATA.
Well, we've got one category left that we haven't covered yet, the Driver's Seat Car of the Year Award. And our choice, the Mazda MIATA, because of its profound impact on the marketplace. This car has set the automotive world on its ear. So the Driver's Seat Car of the Year Award goes to the Mazda MIATA. And that's all for this week. Join us next time. We'll put you in the driver's seat.